Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
I'm here in Japan with my friend Anna.
Not Japanese.
Not Japanese?
But I do speak it.
そうですか?
まあ、少し。
でも少し。いいえず。違います。
I'm not fluent by any means because fluent is sort of an arbitrary line that is not well defined, and so I'm conversational.
She's a lot more than conversational.
I can tell you a lot about cats in Japanese.
But do you have a cat?
No, I have some vicarious cats that I watch on YouTube and the family cats back home and I get pictures of. But
Wait, how many family cats do you have? Just curious.
Two. Just two.
Only two? Okay.
Yeah.
So she's not a crazy cat lady.
Yet.
But she does love cats.
I do.
And not only does she love cats, but she's also the intern wrangler for all of us this summer at Community Arts Tokyo. So...
Yeah, my job is to make sure that fresh-faced American college students who come to Tokyo don't die in their first week.
Well, I don't think any of us died our first week, so you must have done a good job.
Success.
Success. We're here today to talk more about the purpose of beauty. Normally, I interview people who do some sort of art, like specifically one form of art. But I think Anna is a little bit different. How would you describe yourself?
There are too many art forms, and I like all of them. So my hobby is collecting hobbies. And also, none of the art forms will really pay a living wage.
So true.
Especially if you won't specialize in one. So I don't have a business card, but if I did, it would not say artist on it, because nobody's paying me for that. But, maybe someday.
That I feel like is what many artists wish they could say. But alas. So, I'm curious, Anna, what, to you, is the purpose of beauty in your life?
Well, that's a very big question that I would answer differently probably every single day of my life, possibly every hour. But right now, today, based on conversations that happened even this morning, we had our team meeting and we were talking about ikebana and the simplicity of
what is ikebana
Japanese
for people
art.
who don't know?
Ikebana is the Japanese art of flower arranging, which I was talking to my mom about it the other day. She was surprised to hear that flower arranging is considered a fine art form, because don't you just, pick a bunch of flowers and stick them together? But no, they're rules and, careful use of negative space. It is a well-developed form here in Japan.
And so simple, I feel like.
Simplicity is one of the values. Yes, it goes along with, a lot of fine Japanese cooking is you cook the food as little as possible so that you can actually taste what it tastes like. And what strikes me about that concept today,
yes,
is that, say you have a piece of sashimi, completely uncooked, unseasoned, fresh fish, and it's already tasty on its own. And that seems, it sounds to us like an ingredient. But that thing by itself is already so complex. We cannot chemically reproduce all of the flavors that are contained in that fish. We can't make this. This is more complicated, more intricacy than we are capable of, even if we don't do anything else to it.
That's crazy. That's a beautiful thought. So, you really appreciate the simplicity in your own life?
Or, to me, rather than simplicity, it feels like an acknowledgement of complexity.
I like that phrase. An acknowledgement. The simplicity is an acknowledgement of the complexity.
Yes, because, you can paint a very detailed picture of a tree, but that painting is it's such a small and dumbed down kind of thing compared to the actual tree.
Right.
That all of our simplicity only puts into contrast the way that everything around us is so incomprehensible all the time. People talk about, seeing God in nature. And I was always a little bit confused by that concept because they never would really explain it. They would just talk about feeling awe-inspired, and they felt awe-inspired and thought, oh, there must be a God. Like, that's not what I usually find myself thinking when I feel awe-inspired.
Right.
But recently, I think I might be coming to understand that concept a little more, because when I look at the world around me, what I realize is that I know nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, I can build stuff. Like, I'm fairly capable. I can cook. I know science. I know how things work. And so I know that it would be completely impossible for me to make this table that we're sitting across right now, because I'd have to make the wood first. So I'd have to make a tree first. So I'd have to make a universe first. Like, we don't make anything. Everything we make is derivative. And we are always just piggybacking off of the complexity of the world around us, trying to beat it into something that we can understand, and then pretending that we do understand it, when actually all we did was change its shape and paint over the surface so we couldn't see the wood grain.
That's a really cool thought. I think someone once described to me, like, we were talking about artists and the way that we see God's world differently through our art form and through another's art form. And someone said that nature is like unregurgitated God's beauty, his creation. Not like our impression of it, but like his creation itself. And so, of course, we can see that in people, but sometimes it's more difficult because people are so complex and they can talk. But when you can look at a tree and you can't make that, no matter how hard you try, you could maybe plant some seeds and grow it.
But where do you get the seeds?
But where do you get the seeds?
Did you make them?
No. How does that make you understand God differently now?
Well, I'm not sure it exactly helps me understand God. It gives me a greater understanding that I do not understand God. And I guess that's, one of the most important things you can know about God.
Yeah.
But it tells me a lot about the importance of our relationship to him. It feels like there's a point in beauty where it becomes frightening. That, sometimes you'll hear, I remember I was reading some kind of book about Makoto Fujimura, and there was an episode where he had made a surface on his painting, and someone came up to him and told him that the surface, the way it shone, was terrifyingly beautiful. And I feel like there is that point, looking up at the stars, where it's so overwhelming that it becomes unnerving.
Yeah. Like, if you really look at something.
Yes. If your foundation is on knowing what's going on, the complexity of the universe is a big problem. Because, you can control your environment and try and keep things small and only buy IKEA furniture so you never have to look at a real tree. But at some point you're going to come up against something that not only can you not do anything about it, you don't even know what it is or why it's there or what it means. And at some point, your brain is going to start decaying and you won't even be able to trust your own senses anymore. And people are always trying their hardest not to think about that.
Or to prolong that happening too.
Yes.
Keep it from happening as long as possible.
Or telling themselves that they can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That they can change it. That it's not inevitable. I read a book recently, which is kind of a horror book, so I don't 100% recommend it.
What was the book?
It was called Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. It's made quite a stir among sci-fi fans in recent years. But for me, the experience of reading it felt so familiar. The whole book is just putting you off your guard. More than being on your toes, it's the narrator is trying so hard to be a reliable narrator, but she's not really succeeding because she is compromised. She can't trust her own senses. She is trying to understand what's happening around her when she is seeing so much and it's overwhelming her, but she knows that she can't trust what she's seeing or hearing, that she's getting this sensory input all the time, but she doesn't know what parts of it are real. And
that sounds terrifying.
Yes, and that's where the horror aspect is. It felt to me like it was based entirely on this concept of uncertainty, which to me goes along with bigness, like people that are afraid of the ocean because what's in it?
Are there actually people afraid of the ocean?
Oh, yes, because it's big.
I've heard of this, but I didn't really believe it.
The ocean or the sky or space.
That's crazy.
Or just really big things.
Yeah.
Like whales.
I mean, it is true. Like, even if you see like a bird, like a pigeon, you think it's super cute until it comes up really close to you and you're confronted with this thing and you're like,
it has claws.
That's actually kind of scary. I know it can't kill me, but still.
And I think what makes a pigeon fundamentally not scary is that you know what the pigeon wants. It wants food.
Right.
And it might be willing to peck your toes to get at it, but it doesn't actually want to eat you. So, live and let live. But
So
what if you encounter a pigeon that is frighteningly intelligent and you have no idea what it wants? That's where things get scary.
And uncertain.
And so what struck me while I was reading this book is that I feel that uncertainty a lot. And yet it doesn't really bother me. Why is that? And I came to the conclusion in my head while reading this book that this goes back to another book I was reading called The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula Le Guin, which is a story of a guy who tries to fix the world, basically.
Okay, bold.
And he was so certain that he could make it right. That he knew what to do. Even when he just kept making things worse. He just one more thing, and this will fix everything. And so I had read that book and felt like being certain is a really dangerous thing. Being certain is what causes you to steamroll over people and bomb other countries. But uncertainty, we can't live like that. We have to deny it, or we can't function. So what is the healthy response to uncertainty? And so for me, I decided that the opposite of uncertainty is not certainty, but trust.
Oh, I like that. Can you explain that more?
Yeah, that it was interesting in Annihilation. I'm trying not to spoil too much.
Yeah, no spoilers allowed.
Yes. But there's kind of a replay in, I think, the second book of a scene that happens in the first. In the first book, it's kind of this encounter, and she sees something that she doesn't understand. And she knows she's not understanding it. And that's what makes it so traumatizing. And there's kind of a replay of that scene later on where a different character sees the same thing, but she knows what it is. And it's a completely different feel. I'm not exactly sure where I was going with that.
Is it less scary knowing it?
The thought that came into my head was, if they had been together, it would have been fine.
Oh. So back to trust, how the opposite of uncertainty is not
Yes.
certainty, but trust.
Because they're always coming out with these studies that we can't really trust our memories. We all remember events differently. I took an online course in forensics once just for fun.
Of course you
that's
did.
the kind of thing I do. And the thing they kept drilling into your heads, you know, along with no leading questions and things like that. And, you know, the main thing was your witnesses are all going to tell you a completely different story. And that's normal. That's okay. Like, they're going to remember the gist. Like, Bob showed up, Bob killed Ryan. But one of them's going to say that Bob was a 6-foot-tall black man. The other one's going to say that Bob was Hispanic. And one of them is going to be really fixated on the fact that Bob was wearing a red hoodie. He was not wearing a red hoodie. That can be confirmed.
That's crazy.
However, there is, you know, security footage of Bob murdering Ryan. So, like, they were all right.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not as right as they thought they were. And learning things like that, I look around me and at the confidence that people live with and think, if only they knew.
Oh man. I mean, that's terrifying that
Mhm.
like if you take the idea of the forensic study that you the forensics ideas, like how no one sees exactly the same thing and remembers correctly, then I take my own memory, and if I start walking backwards and I think about things that I must not be remembering correctly, like that's if I actually thought about that and I didn't have trust in something bigger than myself, I might just be downright terrified by that.
And sometimes those are things, pivotal events, that we base our whole identities off of.
Right.
That we may have completely misinterpreted or misremembered. Like, it might not even be that what was going on wasn't what we thought was going on. It might even be that that didn't happen. And, you know, maybe that doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And the fact that it does is already a big problem for the way that most humans live their lives.
We all say we want to live like by science, not by, or I don't know if all is correct, but a lot of people that I've talked to recently say we want to trust science more than the gospel, and I don't know, that's a big problem. If
But
you
a
take
proper
it-
scientist knows that scientists don't know anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
You find questions underneath your questions,
The more questions you ask.
and questions underneath those.
Yeah.
And eventually we get to Schrodinger's cat.
Back to cats.
The point of which, well, I'm about to botch very theoretical physics here, so
Gambate.
yeah, I'll just botch it. There's this whole Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which the idea is once you get down to like subatomic particles, you cannot observe something without changing it. So the second you identify precisely where this particle is, you've affected the system.
Great. So how can we know anything?
I think we can't.
We can't know anything.
No. But we don't have to. Because, I mean, think about kids. Kids don't know anything. But kids are not terrified all the time. Why? Because they've trusted their parents. Because their parents are taking care of all their needs. And, you know, I'm the intern wrangler.
Mm-hmm.
When I meet you guys at the airport and start dragging you all around Tokyo, you're not typically terrified. I mean, you're usually nervous and jet lag out of your minds, but you trust that I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so
100%. And I've never met you before. That's a little scary now that I think about
Isn't
it.
that weird? And yet, if you didn't act like that, you would still be in the airport. I mean, you probably never would have gotten on the plane in the first place, because how do you know that pilot can actually fly? Wait, I mean, first off, how does a jet plane even work? And you trust that thing to take you across the, which way are you going? Atlantic Ocean? Pacific Ocean? Pacific, I think.
That's kind of an unbelievable amount of trust that is required.
That we put in humans and things that humans have made, which have been demonstrated to be pretty unreliable. How much more of a comfort is it to know that all of these things, and I don't know this either, but I believe it because I've been told, things are knowable, but not by us.
Things are knowable, but not by us. Then
Yes.
by whom?
Well, if we go back to Genesis 1.
Let's start at the very beginning.
Yes, and I feel like there's this sort of artistic reinterpretation of the Garden of Eden that crops up a lot of times in people who are sort of anti-Christian. That, you know, the Garden of Eden story was Adam and Eve, they wanted to be wise, and for some reason God didn't want them to be wise, and so they sort of went behind his back and got smart, and he was all butthurt about it. Or there's the Christian interpretation of, well, sometimes it's better to not know.
I know.
Like they learned things that they didn't want to learn, and they knew that they were naked. And I think both of those are completely missing the point.
I think they're a little shallow too at best.
Well, one teaches you that the universe is against you, that if there is a God, he's not on your side. And the other one teaches you that better to, like, you know, just go back to being dumb. Ignorance is bliss. And neither of those are sanctified ways I want to live my life.
I love how nicely you're putting this.
And a lot of this is thanks to videos by the Bible Project. I've been learning about design patterns in the Old Testament and visiting and revisiting the first 3 chapters of Genesis. They're so dense, not a word out of place. And here's the story of the Garden of Eden so far, as I have interpreted it so far. God makes a universe. God makes the lights in the heavens, meaning stewards, kind of the heavens, which are later referred to by various titles like angels. And then he has the land, and he makes out of the land stewards for the land. And he's like, you guys are going to rule over the earth for me. And they're like, cool. And there's this tree.
And then there's this tree.
Yeah, and it is called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is a little on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah.
And, like, doesn't that seem like a good thing to have? Like, Adam and Eve have literally just been told, all right, rule the earth with justice. And don't eat from the tree of knowing good and bad.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a skill they would need.
You need to know that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a different idea in mind here.
Well, I would agree that someone has to have that skill, first off. And I don't think there's necessarily anything in the story to indicate that God intended on keeping that from them forever. The point here is that the word that shows up repeatedly in this and in other stories is the word of seeing. And God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good. Seeing here takes on the meaning of knowing and of judging. And so when we're at the tree with the snake and, you know, all the fun symbolism and the fruit that definitely wasn't an apple, Eve sees the fruit on the tree, that it was good for eating and for making one wise. And so she takes.
Is it the same seeing that is used when God is seeing and judging?
And I want to jump forward to another Old Testament story that will go back and make it more clear.
Okay.
After the Israelites have entered the Promised Land and we have got the whole Judges period, things are bad. Things are awful. And the Israelites say, we want a king.
No. I just read this in the Bible. I hate this part. Tell me more.
So the people are like, we want a king. And God is like, you sure about that? Like, power structures, oppression, like, this is how it all comes in. Like, you know, if you get a king, you're gonna have taxes, right? And they're like, we want a king like all the other nations. Have a king.
Peer pressure.
And God's like, okay, fine, you want a king? You get a king. And he sends Samuel out to find them a king, Samuel the prophet. And there's this little line in there where Samuel finds Saul. And Samuel saw Saul, that he was a head taller than everyone around him. And then there follows a really interesting story about his anointing and coronation that parallels itself to the Garden of Eden story, putting Saul in the position of the fruit. Ooh. Which we won't go into because that'll take too long. Because I want to skip forward to Saul didn't work out. Now we're going to go for the king after God's own heart, who gets his own Garden of Eden moment with a certain woman on a roof, but we won't get into that. We go forward to David, and God sends Samuel, once again Samuel, to the house of Jesse, David's father, and Samuel sees David's oldest brother, because he's got like 50 million handsome brothers, and Samuel sees the oldest one, and he's like, oh yeah, God, this is a good-looking king. And God is like, don't be deceived by what you see.
Appearances.
For man sees what is on the outside, but I see the heart.
Whoa.
And then, you know, we go through the rigmarole, get all the way down to David, who is apparently quite short compared to a certain other king we may have had recently.
Not quite as handsome.
Well, he is very handsome, which kind of becomes a problem later on. But
I forgot about that.
He is at least quite short, and he ends up fighting a giant.
He's a short
interesting. A giant who, by the way, is said to be in scaly armor.
No. It's almost too uncanny.
It's really finely crafted.
Definitely coincidence.
Anyway, all this to add context to the word see. Where in the Garden of Eden, did Eve see correctly?
Ooh.
Because what God wanted in that moment was for them to trust what he saw. And he saw that this would not be good for them at this time. But they saw differently. And she decided to act on what she saw instead of what the ultimate seer, who literally made everything, saw.
That's crazy.
And ever since then, humanity has been kind of orphaned because we wanted to take care of ourselves. We knew what was best. We're going to grow our own food. We're going to have storehouses, make our own plans, protect our own cities, build walls. We gave up on the protection of our parent as tiny babies. And that never goes well.
And we thought we had our certainty and that we didn't need something to trust in, like you were mentioning earlier.
Yes, we thought, we got this. We don't got this.
That's dangerous.
And ever since, we've been living in fear. Because without someone who knows how to operate the Japanese train system, Shinjuku Station is a terrifying place to be. And without someone who knows what death is, the world is a really terrifying place to be. Which is essentially the difference between well-adjusted children and traumatized children, is that some of them could trust their parents and some couldn't. And so on a family level, people who grow up trusting their parents tend to do a lot better. And on a species level, we have all grown up without trust.
Wow. I think it's also another thing to admit that not only are babies in need of someone to trust, but the person readily available to them to trust is untrustworthy themselves. And so of course, many things can go wrong here,
Yes.
but ultimately, who can we trust?
And this goes straight into one of my ethics fixations, I guess. Does the end justify the means?
Oh, I hate this question.
And in a world where we acknowledge that we know nothing, that's like a completely meaningless question. Because we have no way of knowing that this means is going to lead to that end. But if you're in a world where humans are all there is, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your family. You know, like, are you going to choose to give grain to your starving neighbor, knowing full well that if this famine continues, the next person to starve will be your daughter? And if you had kept that grain for your family, maybe she wouldn't have starved.
It would be right to be selfish.
If you have no one to
If
fall back on.
you have no one to trust.
If you have no one to trust. If you are the final authority, then you have to think about how to make things right for your tribe. But if you have an ultimate power you can fall back on, you are free to do what you think is right, regardless of what end it might come to. Because someone else is taking care of the end. Your job is only in the means.
Do you think this concept, if put into practice, like in, per se, a relationship between a husband and a wife, how in the world could you love someone if you can only look out for people in this way with no one to trust? Like, what would that look like? Because what you were just describing to me sounds kind of like a Darwinistic sort of like the fastest person wins.
Yes.
The most able to care for themselves will win. Does that leave freedom to love?
Yes, but you have to stop loving yourself to do it. I think in a world where there isn't enough, this is another theme I've been getting from the Bible Project, the theme of abundance.
Okay.
That the garden was so abundant and that there is enough to go around. But man, it really doesn't feel like there's enough to go around. Enough time, enough energy, enough money, enough food, enough kindness. In a world where there isn't enough to go around, something has to go. Something has to get sacrificed. You get to decide whether it's the person in front of you or you. But that's all you get to decide. So I feel like if we don't have the safety net of knowing that God, that the power who is ultimately in control of all the stuff we don't understand,
Which is everything.
everything, including this table we're sitting at, if he doesn't have our best interest in mind, then we are not free to ever do anything good. Because doing good to one person would be taking good from another person. Because there's not enough to go around.
I feel like that is not what I want to be true, and yet that's the easiest thing to believe is true at times, or the thing that we want to believe is true,
That there's not enough.
that there's not enough. Sometimes I find it hard to believe that, like, this God that I cannot see can actually provide for me in those moments.
Well, and if you're going to believe that there's enough to go around, that immediately makes you super countercultural. Like, how are you supposed to justify running yourself into the ground, busy, 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 if there's actually enough to go around?
Right. How do you solve that problem?
And, like, how do you keep up motivation to, like, go around and make the world a better place when there's enough to go around? You have to, like, sort of recognize that, oh, actually, I'm not the main person doing that. that, God is. Someone else has got that. And, I'm a missionary. I'm all for the urgency of the gospel. But also in a really big way, it's not my job. That I am being allowed to participate. It's like a Christmas cookie decorating party.
Oh my gosh.
For the kids, specifically. For the kids. You bring the cookies pre-made. This is important. And the kids get to decorate them.
Yeah. But
the cookies are already made. And, they feel like they're contributing. Are they really? It's fun. And you're essentially doing it because it's fun, not because you need the cookies.
Right.
And I really feel like missions is kind of the same way. That makes it sound really flippant, but God is doing the work.
Right.
He's invited us to show up or not. But there is just such freedom in knowing that I'm God's assistant in missions in the same way that a toddler is his mom's assistant in the kitchen. Probably actually making things go more slowly, but building great memories in the process.
I mean, when you say it like that, if you first think about it, maybe that's, kind of can sound flippant. But also think about, the freedom that gives you. God has asked you to come. He wants you there. Even with the little that you have, or the nothing, or the negative that you have to contribute, he still gave you that ability anyway, in the first place.
And he doesn't want me to beat myself up over not being able to, run my mouth sharing the gospel in 15 different languages, 25 hours a day. Because really the difference between me, a pretty low energy person, honestly, giving, let's just make this extreme, me giving 15 minutes out of my day to the kingdom, and super Christian over here giving 15 hours a day. The difference between us compared to God.
Right.
There is no difference. It's basically the same thing. We're both contributing basically nothing.
It's like a 5 and a 6-year-old decorating cookies.
Yeah, the 6-year-old cookie looks better.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But it's still a cookie decorated by a 6-year-old.
And they both look like horrible eldritch creations.
Oh, man. That they will probably themselves eat later.
Yes.
Okay, but in the same way, that's kind of oddly reassuring to know that you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah, it's at first it feels discouraging to be told, oh, you actually don't have the power to save anyone or fix anyone's problems.
Right.
But that also means that you don't have the power to condemn anyone, and you don't have the power to mess up the plan.
Praise the Lord!
So, I am willing to give up. I am willing to let God be the one who sees.
Yes.
Because I don't trust my own eyes. And I don't want the blind to lead the blind. I want to know that I am blind and let myself be led. Because trying to see just makes me feel bad about myself. And usually makes life difficult for all the people around me.
What do you think is the one of the most helpful things, one of the most helpful ways to understand that you are blind and to move on?
Study science. Yeah, honestly, learn new things. Even flower arranging, or...
Back to Ikebana.
I am building my own keyboard recently. It's really complicated.
Really?
I was thinking, you pop the keys in. There are 3 types of key switches. Not keycaps, key switches. That's what you put under the key. Yes, you can get clicky or linear or, what's the other one? Tactile.
Okay.
And then there are lots of different profiles, that means shapes, of key caps. And all the hardcore gamers have strong opinions and preferences about this. And I'm why is every single niche topic super complicated? It's turtles all the way down. Everything you look into is complicated and complex. And there is nothing you can study that you can get to the end of So yeah, just try and master something, and you will quickly discover that you cannot.
I mean, that's really good advice. I mean, for anyone I know who's like a scientist and they complain that the Bible isn't compatible with science, I say, okay, try to prove it wrong. Because I know that if they try, they won't be able to.
Well, and I would encourage them to, I mean, if you're going to read the Bible as a science textbook, you're already doing it wrong. Sorry.
Right. It's not a science textbook, is it?
No, and like you're reading it wrong. Like you need to learn how to read literature first. And maybe like ideally how to read ancient Hebrew. And also ideally you should like go back in time and become an ancient Israelite so you have like the cultural context to understand it the way they understood it. And then you need to apply that to your modern life. Like if they think it's incompatible, it's because they are simplifying it.
Wow.
When the Bible is supposed to be complicated because life is complicated.
And also, isn't it supposed to be not really entirely written by humans? And therefore more complicated?
There's also that. And yeah, and people say all the time, why does the Bible have to be complicated? Why couldn't God just say what he wanted to say? Like, why couldn't we just have golden tablets fall from heaven? And that's a question I have too. Because like he could have, right?
Sure.
And yet, for some reason, suspiciously similar to the way that missions works, he has chosen to use humans and make it like this collaborative effort. Even though by using humans, that meant that he had to pick a particular language to put it in, and a particular time to put it in. A time before the printing press. Like, why choose that? He goes so far, bends over backwards to include humans in his work. From the very beginning, making them stewards of the earth, when he could have done a fine job by himself. But he wants to delegate. He wants to see his kids scribbling in crayon, and he's gonna stick it up on the fridge afterwards, and they're gonna be really embarrassed about it when they grow up. But that's what love is.
Yeah. It's almost like he's not loving us for what we do, or even who we are, but whose we are. We're his. Mm-hmm. He made us. And that's what makes us infinitely valuable. And that's why every single person that I talk to on this podcast has so many beautiful things to say, I think, because we're all made in the image of God. And so if God made you, then maybe you're a kid scribbling with red ink. But if God thinks you're valuable, then who am I to say otherwise, right?
And here, now that we have established that we do have someone we can trust, that takes the uncertainty and complexity of the universe and takes the fear away from that. Now that we're in this place where we don't have to be afraid. Now, the way we can't trust our eyes is actually kind of fun. Because, you're seeing it from one perspective, but I'm seeing it from another perspective. And we can compare.
Right.
And suddenly it becomes something for us to connect over.
That's really cool. Is that why it's so cool to bring all these artists together and talk to them at Community Arts Tokyo events and to see, like, how do you see God through your art form?
Yeah, because, God could have made us omniscient, but he didn't. But the only reason you would need to be omniscient is if you don't have anyone you trust. And so, starting with the premise that he's not going to let us down. He made us to not know everything. And I think we can and should and are supposed to find joy in that. That we get to experiencing watching a movie with a really good twist for the very first time. And we get to experience watching or like reading the same book and coming away with very different reactions to it. Like this is how art works. this is why people show their art to each other. If everyone immediately understood the painting exactly the way you wanted it to be painted when they saw it, art would be kind of meaningless.
Right.
Because everyone would just have that exact same thought in their heads. But by having other people look at it and come with new interpretations, it becomes something greater than what it was before.
It's almost like it's a really good thing that we're not robots. And also, I feel like a lot of the times when I start to learn a new language and talk to people who know the language a whole lot better than me, not only does it give me a glimpse of what heaven could be like someday, in the sense of like, this language, I can understand God in a different way, because he made this language too. He made the world with words, and I don't know what those words were, but he spoke the world into existence. And so for me, every time I learn a new language, or even as I continue deepening my understanding of one that I'm already studying, I feel like I start to have so much wonder at the world. Like a child, starting to learn new words, and how you learn to read, and how you learn to talk, and how you learn to see the world. But then when you do it in a new language, you see it in a whole new way. Has Japanese done that for you as you have started to learn? And if so, what are some things that you've learned?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a funny one for me because in a way it doesn't feel like English is my first language.
Really?
Yeah, it feels like I'm always having to translate from whatever weird assembly code my thoughts happen in into a second language, and it always loses something in translation. So to me, speaking in Japanese doesn't feel like a barrier.
Right.
Any more than English does. They're
Okay.
both barriers between my thoughts and the other person understanding me. But Japanese definitely has a different set of tools, and honestly, it's really frustrating when I call my mom and she doesn't speak both. It like halves my options, you know, because I really just want to use the word sanishi for this feeling, but she doesn't know what that means. So everyone needs to learn all the languages stat, so we have as many words as possible to communicate our feelings to each other.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Excellent. I'll teach you some Finnish today.
Okay. Do you have any concept or idea of what heaven could look like with language?
Oh, well, I'm a little bit of a language nerd, so I don't go for that. We all speak one heavenly language thing. No,
Yeah,
what
that
a waste.
seems boring, right?
I want all the dead languages to come back.
Ooh.
I want to learn to speak ancient Hebrew because we have it written, but the way language is written can be quite different from the way it was spoken. I want to hear it spoken. I want to know what we've been getting completely wrong.
That'll be cool.
It's like the end of a game of telephone where everyone gets to laugh at how hilariously misconstructed it became by the end.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like people tend to put on heaven things that they want, like certainty. Like, when we get to heaven, we'll have all the answers.
What if we don't?
What if we don't? What if we were never meant to? What if
that was the
What if that's the fun part? No spoilers.
What if it's enough that God knows everything? So we don't have to.
All that to say, I don't think I'm going to be able to magically speak all the other languages when I get to heaven.
Dang it.
But I think I will have an infinite amount of free time to be able to study them.
You know, that is what I have been hoping. Because I also think learning it is fun.
It is. Those discoveries.
Yeah.
It's like turning over rocks in a stream. The primal instinct to collect shiny things and interesting vocabulary words.
Oh, man. Do you have an interesting vocabulary word in a non-English language that you would like to share with us? You know, while we're on the topic of picking up shiny things.
Here's one I taught my mom recently because I feel like it really describes just the way I feel about world leaders in general.
Oh no, I'm scared.
It's not really a word, it's a phrase, but it's
Okay.
one you hear a lot. It's fuan shikanai.
Fuan shikanai?
Fuan shikanai.
Fuan shikanai. Fuan shikanai. Tongue twister. Fuan shikanai wa nan desu ka?
So Fuan means, I think the best English translation is unease,
Okay.
but it's also used in like the diagnosis of anxiety.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like strong unease.
Extremely strong.
And then shka is a word that means other than.
Mm.
And then nai means not. So other than unease, there is nothing. Meaning, I feel nothing but uncomfortable about how things are going right now.
Fuanchkanai.
Fuanchkanai.
So do you think uncertainty to people who do not have someone to trust, and when I say someone, I mean God, do you think uncertainty is like anything like Fuanchkanai?
Well, I mean, anxiety, unease, exists because of uncertainty. Or rather, it's what exists when you don't trust.
Mm.
When you think that either the person you're relying on doesn't actually know, when you think they don't have your best interest at heart, or they're not powerful enough. And, you know, it's a very natural feeling, and I think it is important to distinguish, especially now that we're already in this broken world, between feelings and what we do with them.
Right.
Because, you know, a kid on top of a water slide, even if his very supportive parent is right there with him, is going to feel a certain measure of nervousness about the whole thing.
That's probably good.
Yeah, that's survival instincts. That is good. The question here is, when his dad says it's perfectly safe, does he believe him? And even if he believes him, that doesn't necessarily mean the anxiety goes away.
Mm.
It just means he doesn't have to listen to it.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, I feel all sorts of Fuan looking around at the world around me. And, like, man, I don't know how that one is going to work out. Luckily, I don't have to know how that one is going to work out. I don't have to see a solution, because someone else sees.
That's actually so beautiful. And full of hope. I hate that we're running out of time. Maybe we should do another part 2. I feel like we could talk about this all day.
I could talk about this for the rest of my life.
Perfect. Get ready for part 2, all my listeners. I'm like so intrigued by this, and I think we need to do a part 2, but to close out this one, I would love to ask, is there a way that we can be praying for you? And also, is there a piece of advice that you would give to any of our listeners who maybe feel uncertainty in their own lives?
There's really only one prayer you can pray for anyone that really matters. And that is that they would be closer to God. That our relationship would deepen. That I would put my trust more and more in Him every day, in every aspect. If you've got that one thing, it takes away all of the fear from the complexity around you in one fell swoop. So pray that I would not neglect this relationship with a God who is constantly seeking me out, but never pushing himself on me. Sometimes it can be frustrating that God respects our personal boundaries. When I would really, he rather just like make me trust him, but that's not his vibe.
Right. Oh, the number of prayers I've prayed to that essence.
Yes, please just make me be a better person right now, but he won't. Because he's not toxic. Which is a frustration, but you can't really be mad about him not being toxic. So pray that I would not be. So that I would not project my experience with humanity onto him.
He's not a human. In
Nope.
fact, he made them.
He's better.
We will absolutely be praying. I'm about to close out this podcast, part 1. We'll see how many parts we get to this summer. But Anna, after I close, would you be able to give us a piece of advice for someone who does feel uncertainty and maybe doesn't know what to do with that? Or someone who isn't okay with that uncertainty? Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this brings you a little bit of peace and encouragement in your busy lives. I am so grateful for Anna and just all of the wonderful things that she is willing to share with us and to spend her time talking about. Anyway, thanks for listening and stay tuned for part 2. And Anna, do you have a piece of advice for us?
Take some titles off your business card. You don't have to be an expert at every subject under the sun, and you don't have to be the competent one in every relationship in your life. Like, you can only do so many things, and you were made that way. So, decide not to do so many things. And don't let anyone force you to go back on it.
That seems like some solid advice for anyone. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for, honestly, just getting to hear all of this from you, because we talked about some of these things, but
not many people will give me an opportunity to just info dump.
I love a good Anna info dump.
Next time will be all about cats.
Let's go. We gotta share with them the black tabby with the M on the forehead.
Oh yeah, I can tell you all sorts of fur coat patterns.
Can't wait. See you next time on part 2.
Bye.
Bye. Sayonara. I guess it's not sayonara. Ja, mata ne.
I don't know what they say at the end of a podcast.
What do you say?
I feel like it's close to the thing they say when you leave a restaurant, like looking forward to seeing you again soon. Something really ritualistic and long and unnecessarily formal. I can't remember. I've never learned that phrase because I've never worked at a restaurant. I hear it, but they say it so mangled.
Yeah, same. I have no idea what they're saying. It could be something that I perfectly well understand, but at the rate at which they speak,